In Forsaken, there are multiple different killers in the game. All killers have the same goal of eliminating the survivor before the timer runs out. There are currently 5 killers inside the game of Forsaken, which all possess different speed, damage, hitbox size, and unique abilities custom to their intended playstyle. Although the killers offer unique playstyles, some killers are far better than others, overall or dependent on the map and survivor you're up against. So in this video, I will be ranking each individual killer in Forsaken depending on how useful their abilities are and how punishing abilities can be if wasted. This will be a more formatted video, so make sure to like and subscribe. First killer we have is Jason. Jason is a 2-star killer, making him the easiest killer to use currently in the game. Jason has the fastest sprint speed in the game of 28, same as with Cool Kid, except Jason has the largest hitbox in the game, which John Doe, 1x, and Noli also have. This makes Jason the only killer in the game with the largest hitbox and sprint speed. Jason also has the lowest terror radius in the game, making Jason perfect to catch unsuspecting survivors off guard. When Jason lands his slash, it will inflict bleeding 1 for 5 seconds, which is not stackable to the survivor, which overall will deal an extra 8 damage unless the survivor reaches 10 HP, the bleeding will stop. If Jason uses his ability Raging Pace, it will cause the killer to become enraged. When he uses slash, he lunges with his strike. His cooldown becomes into 0.8 seconds, which is more than half of his original cooldown, while dealing 25 damage and making his slash hit through every survivor that is in his reach. If you manage to pair Raging Pace and slash, it will cause a whopping 37 damage, making it the highest M1 damage output possible in the game. Behead is Jason's second ability. Behead lunges you forwards towards the direction you're going. Behead has a cooldown of 18.5 seconds and a damage output of 20. When landing Behead, it inflicts Helpless 1 for 14 seconds, preventing the survivor from using any of their abilities. After landing or missing Behead, Jason gains Slowness 1 for 2 seconds, so you want to be careful when and how to use it, because Behead can become extremely punishing. I personally recommend doing it to Guests, 2 times, and Shaletsky's, as those are the characters that can stun you by predicting you. If Jason is enraged while using Behead, it will cause the cooldown to become 12 seconds and deal the damage output to be 35. Gashing Wound is Jason's third ability. Gashing Wound is a move where if you land it once, it will do a combination of slashes, doing a total of 50 damage. After using the ability, the killer cannot move for about a second, which gives the survivor the chance to gain a bit of distance. Gashing Wound also has a cooldown of 40 seconds. During the animation of Gashing Wound, you cannot get stunned during or slightly after using it. This move is perfect for dealing huge amounts of damage to unsuspecting survivors, as you also have the lowest terror radius out of any killer currently in the game. If Jason is enraged and uses Gashing Wound, it will have a cooldown of 32 seconds and a total damage output of 70, making this the most damaging move currently in the game. Raging Pace is Jason's fourth and last ability. This ability reveals the closest survivor to the killer while increasing all the killer's abilities' damage output. During activation, it gives the effect of enraged, forcing Jason to no longer be able to run, but walk at a speed of 19.5 for 14 seconds. Jason also regains his stamina at a speed of 6.5 seconds to a cap of 70, and this cap is removed once Jason is no longer enraged. Jason can also only use one of his abilities during Raging Pace, and once he does, it will deactivate Raging Pace. What makes this ability truly terrifying is that you become completely immune to stuns, which is perfect to counter stunners, as you can use Raging Pace just before the stunner is able to stun you. Overall, Jason is an extremely good killer at catching survivors off guard, being the only killer that can counter stunners, being the fastest killer in the game while having the biggest hitbox in the game. Although Jason has these pros, there are some major cons. such as Jason is the only killer in the game that has no moves that can be used at a distance, making Jason incredibly dependent on his speed to catch up and to use his moves at a high accuracy, because slightly missing it can cause the survivors to gain huge distance from you that you cannot counter because you have no ranged abilities. Jason is also extremely predictable with his abilities and doesn't have the same versatilities as the other killers due to his abilities only being short ranged. Because of this, I'm putting Jason as C tier. The next killer we have is Cool Kid. Cool Kid is a killer with a 3-star difficulty, making him considered to be a medium difficult killer. Cool Kid has a sprint speed of 28, making him the fastest killer with Jason, and a terror radius of 60. Cool Kid also has a health of 800, making him the easiest killer in the game to be killed, which has happened before. Cool Kid possesses 4 abilities, his first one being Punch. Punch has a damage output of 26.5 damage, which is the second strongest M1 in the game, just behind John Doe. Punch has a cooldown of 2 seconds, which is the largest cooldown out of any killer currently in Forsaken. Punch's windup is 0.1 seconds, which is the shortest out of any killer, making it difficult for survivors to predict the killer's punch. Punch linger is 0.3 seconds, which is the largest linger out of any killer, but has a length of 5 studs, making it the shortest hitbox, M1 wise, out of any killer currently in the game. Cool Kid's second ability is Corrupt Nature, which is a projectile that goes through walls and survivors, making it the perfect ranged move that can go any direction, through multiple survivors, and able to predict the trajectory of the survivor's path. Corrupt Nature has a cooldown of 12 seconds and a damage output of 15 and has no windup, making it a move that can be used instantly. If the projectile hits a survivor, they are inflicted with slowness 1 for 4 seconds, and their aura is revealed to Cool Kid for 10 seconds, making it perfect to use in close range to slow the survivor and good to use at a far range so you can catch up quicker. All in all, this ability is one of the best abilities in the game due to its versatility and that it's good close range and far range. Cool Kid's third ability is Walk Speed's Override. It has a damage output of 30 and a cooldown of 20 seconds. Cool Kid does a very short windup of 0.55 seconds and does a huge lunge forwards for 1.34 seconds. Once landing the move, it deals 30 damage and gives Burning 1 for 8 seconds, which is a total damage output of 45. You cannot cancel the move after using it, which means if you miss, it can severely punish you by allowing survivors to run away while you're still in the animation. Unless you manage to hit a wall, you can end the animation slightly earlier, making it less punishing. I recommend using this move when survivors are in areas where it's harder to dodge or when you're close. You can also use this move if you want to cover big distances across the map during Last Man Standing. Cool Kid's fourth ability is Pizza Delivery. Pizza Delivery is a move where Cool Kid spawns 2 minions that chase after the closest survivor. This move won't work when someone has the undetectable effect unless it's Last Man Standing. Once a minion hits a survivor, it does 15 damage and inflicts Burning 1 and Slowness 2 for 3 seconds and is exposed to Cool Kid for 15 seconds. I personally recommend to use this move as soon as possible, as it's really good at catching survivors off guard and prevents the survivor to regain stamina while being chased, making them an easier catch. I also recommend using it when you cannot find a survivor because it will lure you towards them. Overall, Cool Kid is an extremely good killer, with being the fastest killer with Jason, shortest windup, and his ability to be extremely versatile, with ranged moves and moves that make you lunge huge distances. If I would rate Cool Kid, due to the lack of cons and the fact that Cool Kid is basically perfect on every single map and every survivor, Cool Kid has to be S tier. Arguably the most skill-based killer we have next is John Doe. John Doe is considered a 5-star difficulty killer, making him the hardest killer, same with Noli. John Doe also has a sprint speed of 27.25 and a terror radius of 60. John Doe is arguably different from every single killer in the game due to the passives he has, which his first one is Natural Malevolence. Natural Malevolence is for every step John Doe takes, he makes a trail of corruption behind him, and whoever steps on it is given Corrupted 2 for 3 seconds, which deals 8 damage and can no longer damage you once you reached 1 HP. John's second passive is Unstoppable, where he is only stunned for 2 seconds while preparing Corrupt Energy or 4 Error. John Doe's first ability is Slash. Slash has a damage output of 28 and a cooldown of 1.75 seconds. Slash has a windup of 0.4 seconds and has a 0.25 seconds of linger, with his hitbox being 7 studs, which is the largest with Noli, 1x, and Jason. This also makes John Doe have the shortest linger and longest windup in the game, same with 1x and Noli. John Doe's second ability is Corrupt Energy. Corrupt Energy is when John Doe punches his corrupted arm into the ground and pulls 27 spikes. Every time the spike hits the survivor, it gives John Doe speed 1 for 7 seconds. The spikes have a lifespan of 14 seconds. Corrupt Energy has a damage output of 12 per spike, and the move has an 18-second cooldown. This move is really good for blocking off certain areas to corner survivors, making it extremely versatile and good for trapping survivors. John Doe's third ability is called Digital Footprint. Digital Footprint is when John Doe stomps on the ground 3 times, which causes a shadow to emerge under his foot as a trap for survivors to walk over. If a survivor steps on the shadow, John Doe gets speed 1 for 10 seconds, and the survivor gets Corrupted 1 and Slowness 2 for 10 seconds. Upon triggering this trap, John Doe and the survivor have their auras revealed to each other for 10 seconds. This ability does 19 damage to the survivor and has a cooldown of 8 seconds. You can spawn 3 of these traps at the same time, making it perfect to cut out specific routes, making John Doe really good at encasing survivors in certain areas. John Doe's fourth and last ability is 404 Error. It has a cooldown of 20 seconds and causes the auras of all living survivors to be visible to him for 4 seconds, making it really good for finding survivors quickly. You can use it right before you get stunned to activate your Natural Malevolence passive. John Doe is a really good killer as it's more stun resistant than any killer in the game and has a trail causing stunners more likely to be damaged while trying to stun. John Doe is also really good at encasing survivors in certain places and is perfect at blocking out exits with spikes or traps, making him extremely good at cutting off survivors. John Doe requires high skill because you need more map awareness than any other killer, and he requires strategy. Due to him having the longest windup and considerably slow movement, he can be frustrating to play as. It doesn't help that his abilities are very situational, but are not designed in an active chase like Cool Kid's abilities or Jason's. So with that, I'd have to rank him at A. The next killer we have is arguably the most hateful, which is 1x. He is a 4-star rated killer, making him high difficulty. He has a sprint speed of 27, making him the slowest killer in the game with a terror radius of 60. 1x's abilities are mostly range and can be easily used in close range, which makes his playstyle more about prediction and chase, which is different from every killer in the game. 1x is also the only killer currently in the game with 5 abilities. His first ability is Slash. It has a damage output of 20 with a cooldown of 1.75 seconds. He has a slow windup of 0.4 seconds and a short linger of 0.25, but has the biggest hitbox in the game with Noli, Jason, and John Doe. When 1x lands his Slash, it inflicts Glitch 1 for 5 seconds, blocking the survivor's screen, making it difficult for the survivor to properly react, and gives Poison Wand for 5 seconds, causing a total damage of 28. The poison effect will not work for survivors who are currently on 1 HP. 1x's second ability is Mass Infection. Mass Infection is a ranged move where 1x slices at the air, causing a projectile to fly for 6 seconds straight. Mass Infection inflicts 35 damage with a cooldown of 14 seconds. It has a 1.7 second windup and inflicts Glitch 2 for 6 seconds and poison 5 for 3 seconds. If 1x uses mass infection while being close to the survivor, it will cause a damage output of 51, but if 1x isn't close enough, it will only give you glitch 1 and poison 1 for 5 seconds and cause a total damage output of 43. Mass infection windup can also be heard by all players in a 400 stud radius. 1x's third ability is called Entanglement. When 1x uses this ability, he throws both of his swords at a windup of 0.75 seconds. It has a lifetime of 10 seconds and its damage output is 10, while its cooldown is 18 seconds. If this move hits the survivor, 1x gains speed 2 for 3 seconds and the survivor aura is revealed to the killer for 2 seconds. The survivor also gains helpless 1 for 10 seconds and cannot move until the survivor finishes 1x's minigame. Survivors are automatically freed from entanglement after 3 seconds. This move is perfect for stopping survivors in their track, giving the killer a huge boost in distance. If you use this move right, you can completely kill a survivor before they even left entanglement. 1x's fourth ability is called Unstable Eye. When 1x uses this ability, he rips out his eye, causing him to have blindness 3 for 5 seconds, but also reveals the survivor's aura and gives 1x speed 1 for 5 seconds. This move is really good at catching up distance with speed 1 and also trying to discover where the survivors are. 1x's fifth and last ability is called Rejuvenate the Rotten. When 1x uses this ability, he forces his swords into himself and resurrects any players he's killed. The zombies will spawn where the survivors originally died at. These zombies will walk around aimlessly until they're 30 studs to the survivor. The zombies can be one-shot by any move in the game and they deal 14 damage to the player. 1x can kill them to gain speed 1 for 10 seconds, making it a really good move to use last man standing to constantly pick up speed 1 while gaining blindness from Unstable Eye. Overall, 1x is an extremely good killer and very versatile as he can constantly rejuvenate himself with speed and use range moves to predict the survivor's trajectory or stun them with the projectile. Although he has these pros, there are some negatives. 1x is heavily reliant on range moves which require a lot of skill and understanding to use. This makes him not good at close range but better than John Doe, because he can deploy entanglement extremely quickly while close, unlike John Doe. 1x is the slowest killer that's currently in the game, and his moves can be extremely predictable and noticeable due to the wind-up music that plays that every survivor can hear. 1x is arguably the easiest killer to loop if they use all of their abilities and are on cooldown. I would have to rate 1x A. I personally believe he's better than John Doe on most maps, but doesn't meet the requirements necessary for S tier. Okay, now for the most arguably hyped up and unique killer in Forsaken is Noli. Noli is a 5-star difficulty killer, making him the most difficult killer as with John Doe. He has a speed of 27.5 and a terror radius of 80, making him the loudest killer, which means it's difficult to be sneaky. Noli has 2 unique passives, first one being hallucination. Many of his abilities will inflict hallucinations, and any level of it will reveal your aura to Noli for the duration of the hallucination. Hallucination 1 causes time to be unreadable. Hallucination 2 causes fake healing objects such as pizzas or dispensers to distract survivors. Hallucinations grow stronger until it reaches hallucination 3, where a fake Noli will manifest and start to attack you. Noli's second passive is called Prankster, where at the beginning of the round, Noli will spawn fake generators. If a survivor completes a fake generator puzzle, they will gain a stack of hallucination. If fully completing the generator, it will grant the survivor hallucination free.
Whoa, wait, ma'am, no!
Noli's first ability is Stab. Stab deals 25 damage and has a cooldown of 1.8 seconds, with a windup of 0.4 seconds, which is the slowest in the game. Noli also has the shortest linger as with John Doe, and have the same hitbox size as 1x and John Doe. Noli's second ability is called Void Rush. Void Rush is where Noli prepares a rush that takes 1 second to charge and rushes for 3.5 seconds. This move covers massive distance and can be used to basically cover one side to another map in some cases. When Noli hits a survivor, it deals 10 damage and gives hallucination 2 for 20 seconds. After 0.85 seconds, Noli can re-perform the rush, and if a survivor is hit that already has hallucination 2 or 3 already, it will deal 30 damage, which if you land this move, it will cause a total output of 40. You can also turn while using this move, making it a far better version of Walk Speed Override. The ride will end prematurely if Noli is stunned, crashes, or lets go of the Void Rush key. Noli will also not be able to regenerate stamina for the duration of the rush. Noli's third ability is called Nova. Nova is similar in principle of Corrupt Nature, but considerably better. It has a 0.78 second wind up. The hitbox on this move is unbelievably massive and is perfect to cut off people when they either take corners or are on ledges, because once hit, it pulls you closer to the middle of the hitbox. Noli can also manually detonate the Void Star, but it will significantly reduce the radius of the explosion. Noli's fourth and last ability is called Observant. It has a cooldown of 30 seconds and cannot be used for 30 seconds when the game starts. When Noli uses this move, he will enter a stance and all generators will be highlighted to him, and a mirage of him will display over the generators as a warning to the survivors. Noli can select any generator to teleport to after a 1.45 second wind up. After teleporting, Noli will inflict hallucination 1, 2 or 3 depending on how far the survivors are. The closer the survivors, the less are the hallucinations. Noli can be stunned while using this move as well. Overall, Noli is the most interesting killer that's in the game. His abilities are extremely good if you know how to use them. Noli is a killer that is deceptive, and a killer that can catch up to survivors, the fastest by teleportation and by using Nova. His abilities is really useful, not just for far range, but for close range. He is by far the most unique and interesting killer in the game. Some of the issues of Noli is that he requires a fair amount of skill to understand, and the fact that the main move of Void Rush can be extremely punishing if you miss it, and can be countered easily by Guest, which is Noli's worst nightmare. If I would have to rate Noli, even though he's a difficult killer to understand skill wise, and he can be punished somewhat easily, I would still have to put him at S tier. His ability to be able to teleport to the other side of the map and catch up to survivors isn't like any type of killer that's currently in the game. He is by far the best in terms of catching up to survivors, and his abilities to pull survivors close makes him even more terrifying, because his Nova can prevent survivors from looping him due to how large the hitboxes are. Noli is also extremely chaotic to go up against. Sometimes you will fall for the hallucinations, and sometimes you might even get trapped due to them.